Welcome to Let's Play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This game was only released in March, and it's already gone on to be one of the most enjoyable games I've played in a long time. And as a long-standing Zelda fan, there's a lot in it that I never knew I wanted in a Zelda game. There are some things I think they skimped on, and some I wish they'd skimped on, but this and Legend of Grimrock 2 are so far the only games I've played all the way through, and then immediately went back to the beginning to record it, because I wanted to play it again. Now, the first time you start the game without a save, there is no title menu, only a prompt to begin. And for the first time in a Zelda game, we hear a voice.
Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Wake up, Link.
One point I'm going to come back to throughout this LP is the story. I have many opinions on it, but I appreciate how simple and calmly the game starts. You hear a woman call to you. It's the first Zelda game with fully voice-acted cutscenes, and you wake up alone in a cave after being asleep for who knows how long. You know nothing, you have nothing, and even just these first 5 minutes set up many recurring elements of the entire rest of the game. Among them, just how beautiful this architecture looks. A lot of the architecture we'll be coming across is inspired by the Jomon period from prehistoric Japan.
That is a Sheikah slate. Take it. It will help guide you after your long slumber.
Our first item is the Sheikah Slate. Its design is based on the Nintendo Switch, although I am playing this on the Wii U. The Slate serves as our menus, our memory, inventory, first-person camera, and much more. It is our best friend in this long journey. And speaking of friends, I've invited on this sordid adventure a hapless pair of farmers, Skippy Granola.
Oh, it's me.
And Yamino Senshi.
This isn't Elder Scrolls 6.
Other co-commentators are possible down the line, but not guaranteed. The first items we get, because we are essentially naked, is some crappy clothes. I press the wrong button, that's actually the map screen. I very frequently get the map, the inventory, and the save screen mixed up. It's some basic clothes with some very light armor, but I prefer streaking for now. It's not going to help me that much. There's nothing else in here that we can get, so let's make our way out.
Hold the Sheikah slate up to the pedestal. That will show you the way.
Now, if you're a fan of the Sheikah like I am, this game is basically porn. The Sheikah are everywhere.
Link, you are the light. Our light. That must shine upon Hyrule once again. Now go.
The next game mechanic we must learn is the one I'll probably be using the most out of all of them, aside from jumping. The first time since the Adventure of Link that you can jump with an actual button press. But climbing. We're gonna climb over anything and everything. And now welcome to the rest of the world. Breath of the Wild has a light influence of the original NES Zelda, in that you are plopped in the middle of a wide open world, and it is your oyster. Go anywhere and go everywhere. Though not quite yet. You'll notice there's a big dramatic drop off of these cliffs, and we have no real way of getting down, so... A good idea would probably be to go talk to that old man. He seems to be the only living person around here. No, a somewhat controversial mechanic of the game. Not the telescope. But there was an item on the ground with a bunch of question marks. This is a stick. It's our first weapon. You have no one sword in this game. At least not right now. So instead, you pick up weapons and shields just off of the ground, usually from enemies, sometimes from treasure chests and what have you. All of these weapons have durability, however, so they will break over time. There's only one weapon in the game that is technically indestructible. All others can be broken, even the very best of them. A lot of people didn't like this mechanic. I mostly do. You're in no real short supply of good weapons once you get to a certain point in the game. And I also like that the game sort of forces you to cycle through what you're using. There's also plenty of forage for you to pick up around. Cooking is a mechanic in the game, which I believe is mentioned in most of the item descriptions. But with how many mushrooms and apples you're going to pick up, there will be cases where it's an easier idea to just shovel food. There are no hearts. You have to recover your health from food, or from potions. And you make potions out of things like this. There are bugs, and there are monster parts. Every bug and monster part has a particular use. You use them to make elixirs. Bugs can run away from you if they hear you. However, the stealth mechanic is ever so slightly broken in that as long as you're sneaking, nobody can hear you. People can see you, but nothing can hear you, even if they should have incredibly sensitive hearing. We can also roll rocks. If there was anything at the bottom of the hill, aside from that old man, I'm glad I didn't hit him, it probably would kill them. And I sort of wish there was something at the bottom of that cliff there. And speaking of apples, this is the first apple tree. These are dotted all throughout the landscape.
Link. Head for the point marked on the map in your Sheikah slate.
That's the button I accidentally pressed earlier. She's telling us to head somewhere over there. I think it's right around there. Even though there's this big temple. Seems like the more logical place to go, but we actually don't need to go there yet. Now, regardless of what I'm supposed to be doing, I have a tendency to just fart around and collect other stuff. I'm very much a pack rat. I will eventually talk to the old man, but yeah, let's do it right now. You can just leave if you want. There is a tendency for characters to remark when you're not wearing anything. according to legend. One thing that I really appreciate about Breath of the Wild, it doesn't really care about continuity necessarily. It is a celebration of the anniversary of the Zelda franchise, but it's not so concerned with fitting into any timeline or anything.
That guy looks a little familiar. Was he a boat in a previous life?
He's got the beard for it. I beg to differ, old man. Nah, he doesn't care.
Just kidding. You can steal whatever you want.
Sir, you don't seem to realize it's me, Link. I take what I want.
You can also cook things on the fire yourself. Cooking them does increase the amount of hearts you get back from them, but it's a better idea to cook them in a pot and make actual meals from them.
Another Thornbrain LP with cooking.
Always. You can burn the landscape, and I will. The torch has better currency being used just as a torch. Any wooden weapon can be caught on fire and used as a torch, but it will eventually burn out. I believe the torch lasts considerably longer on fire, if outright never burning out. And you can hold the torch forward, specifically for lighting campfires or, you know, grass, everything around you, things like that.
Bonfire lit.
Pay close attention to that kick-ass updraft. That's going to be useful later. And it owns!
Yes, it does. You also pick up a woodcutter's axe. There are different types of weapons. Woodcutter's axe can be used to chop down trees to get wood, which you can drop on the ground, ignite, and use as a campfire. And campfires are places where you can move time ahead to either the morning, noon, or night. But at this point in the game, an axe is actually a really good weapon on its own as well, which is how I prefer to use it.
It's just got shit for durability.
Yeah. Notice how hard it is to climb apple trees. Aside from those, the climbing mechanic works fine.
So on the topic of durability, you brought up how you didn't mind that. For my part, I love it. I love that a game is brave enough to not be so damn precious with good weapons.
Oh, Breath of the Wild isn't precious with anything.
No, it's just like... It's like Hideo Kojima levels of detailed. Just the amount of internal logic.
And there are, of course, things under rocks,
Of course, little cuties.
which we can bake.
Oh yeah, well, technically you brew them.
Yeah, I suppose.
What I really like is that Hyrule is on Fahrenheit. It's so primitive.
I missed. There's a strange circle of lily pads down there, which is a very blatant clue into a puzzle.
You should have dived right into the middle of it like a pro.
You can dive. I prefer to stay dry right now. However,
Man, you're awful
Eh?
at this. You sure you should be LPing this? Pretty bad at it.
in my defense, I'm actually quite good at this game, just not with throwing crap. And we have our first enemy. It's a bokoblin. Standard enemy throughout Zelda, and a standard enemy throughout this game.
I'm digging the aesthetic. It's halfway between Wind Waker, my personal favorite, and the Ocarina of Time style. It's like the more realistic characters, but with bright, beautiful colors.
Yeah. Which pretty decently describes the aesthetic of the whole game. Weird visual glitch, don't know what's happening there. But a couple of things there. I picked up a bokoblin horn, that's one of the types of monster parts. And like I mentioned, you brew those with bugs and critters to create elixirs.
Yes!
There we go. Hey, Korok. We haven't seen those since Wind Waker. Speaking of Wind Waker. Has to. Keep that name in mind. But once you've broken a weapon, the very last hit is actually double damage. So that's another reason I like that the game has durability. It's not just that the weapon breaks, but breaking in itself might actually be a good thing. It could be the attack that kills the enemy.
Oh man, are we gonna find everyone's favorite special leaf boy?
Maybe. We don't know yet. Now, I was a little worried about swimming, because swimming does use your stamina, but once you run out of stamina, you drown, and you turn it back on land. Got our first sword, but it's crap. I do like the homage to the Master Sword, though, it being stuck in the rock. There's also a very conspicuous pile of rocks. I'm looking forward to breaking into that. The name of Breath of the Wild is Freedom of Movement. I don't have very much stamina right now, but just minor spoiler ahead, I'm going to focus more on building up my stamina rather than building up my health. You do actually get the option to focus on one of those, because I love the freedom of movement. You can climb almost anything. There's only one particular type of structure that you can't.
Literal fire.
Okay, two.
We saw it a little bit at the start when Thorn was trying to jump up the walls in the cave. Apparently anything built by the Sheikah is covered in Teflon.
Yeah, pretty much. I like these structures. They actually have bits of machinery that we can pull out. I did sort of clear the area. There's a bunch of these guys around here.
Oh my god, I can't believe Nintendo dragged us into yet another post-apocalyptic open-world game with crafting.
Well, you know, Breath of the Wild does a lot of things that a lot of other open-world games do, but it does it so much better.
Can I strip a man naked and beat him to death with a rock?
Honey, we basically just did.
Oh my.
Yeah, I've mentioned it to these guys. I don't know if I mentioned it in game, or maybe I've mentioned it to my buddy Jacob, but me saying "oh honey" is like one of the gayest things I do. But speaking of stealth, this guy could see me, but he cannot hear me. I believe if you run, he might be able to hear it, but as long as you're walking while in stealth mode, he can't hear you at all. I just need to be careful. I don't think I can climb up here while in stealth mode, though. Oh, there it goes.
Oh.
Whatever.
And you break a stick over his head.
One whole heart of damage from the weakest enemy in the game.
I have heard that this game does not mess around.
Nope.
Breath of the Wild is so punishing!
I took her club.
Oh yeah, they get... Ah!
It's mine! It's mine, you son of a biscuit!
Spin to win.
That's one of the many charge attacks you can do. Usually it's a spin, but with the woodcutter axe, it's an amazing spin. I'm really only going to be using tree branches for this tutorial part of the game. They are not good. I also love doing jump attacks.
You exploded.
Choo Choo Jelly is a monster part, but you don't really... I guess you can use it in elixirs, but it has better currency elsewhere.
Nope, now we're playing Terraria. Time for a campaign of mass deforestation.
Oh, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh yeah, just for the record, I have not played or even really seen very much about this game. I was planning to play it when it came out, but then I got a little hard up for cash, so...
Little hard up for Final Fantasy XIV, more like.
Shut up.
Oh, it's okay. I'm a proud card-carrying member of Team Tiny Bro. Hey, bon anniversaire! Oh!
That's one of them. There is some decent enemy AI, because like he noticed the rock and he immediately ran out of the way. But he was dumb and he moved back. Oh man, I was worried that would be too high. There is definitely fall damage in this game, and there's no hitting the ground and rolling like in Ocarina of Time. You hit the ground, period.
You do that horrible knee-shattering stiff leg stop when you land.
Less bone breaking and more just immediate death.
So, probably some bone breaking in there too.
Now, speaking of rocks, can't quite see it from this camera angle yet, but there are some explosive barrels right below the rock. And I'm guessing this rock is made of flint. This'll be fun. Another cool thing about the monsters is a lot of them are around campsites. Now this one doesn't have a pot that we can cook in, but it does have some meat pre-cooked for us.
So I'm liking the return to form to like old school style Nintendo teaching you things. Like just setting up very obvious, go here, do this. Instead of like, you know, hand-holdy, talky-talky tutorials, which has highlighted their games for quite a few years now.
Boy. This game makes up for a Skyward Sword. Because if this were Skyward Sword, that lady who talked to us would not have shut up.
Yeah, we'd still be talking to the old man.
I want to say that Skyward Sword had something like 6 solid hours of gameplay before you got to the first dungeon. That's fucking inexcusable.
It did have Groose, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it did have Groose, but Groose cannot forgive all sins. Just most.
He's not Jesus, he's Moses.
Parted the Red Sea with all of his hair gel.
It looks more like he dunked his head in the Red Sea. Now here's another thing. If he had better pathing, he would actually walk around to where he heard the sound. But you can sort of kite enemies around and sneak around them if you wanted.
Okay, and then press triangle to air assassinate.
It's not quite Dark Souls.
I was going more for Assassin's Creed, but sure.
What I tried to do there, speaking of Dark Souls, there is a bit of a parry riposte dodge mechanic. Even though I'd started recording this relatively quickly after I had beaten the game the first time, I was still just ever so slightly rusty. But, kind of get used to seeing that. When I'm low on health, I don't go somewhere to try and find anywhere I can cook, I just shovel food.
He's not wearing shoes!
That's pretty good.
That's actually sort of, I don't know what you call it, radiant animations. Depending on where you're standing, or even how you're standing, and if you have anything on your foot, Link will either reach down and open up the chest. If you're at the side or behind it, he'll kick the chest to open it. And if he doesn't have any shoes, he'll kick it and regret it.
So can you just grab one of those barrels and use that as a weapon? Because it's clearly better than those clubs.
It's not a very good weapon. You can only throw it. Although, you can also throw your weapons.
Yeah, a thrown weapon at low durability will do a ton of damage, but it'll also break.
Even at high durability, it feels like throwing it and it hitting an enemy is saying goodbye to it.
Yeah, pretty much.
I kept the editing light in this first part to sort of give the idea of how the game feels as you're playing it. Later on, since there are big expanses of me just going places, there will be a bit of editing. Not too much to really spoil the feel of the game, though. In order for that special dodge mechanic to come in, it's essentially witch time from Bayonetta. You need to have the timing, like, right on the weapon about to hit you.
Does Link turn into a big cloud of butterflies?
No.
But he does put on some fishnets.
Made of his own hair.
Yes.
Keep going.
Well, you just wait until he undergoes his henshin transformation.
I got some pots. First time I played through the game, they had arrows in there. Not this time. There they are. A lot more than 5, anyway.
Worth their weight in rupees.
Very nice. Now, if you know me at all, you know I am a sniper at heart. So I like to use the bow lots.
Got your ammo count right on the aiming reticle. Like that.
Yep. And there are multiple different types of arrows. Some of which are amazing, some of which are ridiculous. I'm ever so slightly breaking sequence here. If only well, there's no sequence in this game, which I really appreciate. But the game does sort of guide you to certain places, but you can go elsewhere. Oh, and also speaking of Skyward Sword, it's Hylia. Somehow in the period between the beginning of the saga and however many millennia ahead this game takes place, she became a common goddess again. Which is an interesting story because she never turns up anywhere else.
Yeah, at least from my understanding, this takes place at effectively the very end of the timeline.
Essentially, whichever timeline it takes place in.
It's weird, because if you go by, like, the canon one that was making the rounds a few years ago, this game's full of references to, like, every other Zelda game.
Here's why it's an ever so slight sequence break. We're not guided towards this tower until the end of this tutorial area, but you can come here first and get a really good bow. But, yeah, that's one thing I really appreciate about this game. It doesn't care about the timeline at all. It references every game that is nowhere near each other.
Oh yeah, there's a Linebeck Lake, I think?
Yeah. There's Mikau and Lulu lakes. There's even a really cool area, which I think we actually won't take too long to find, but it's the most blatant reference to a previous game, at least as far as the location is concerned.
Ah, yes. Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD with Amiibo pack in Lake.
Yeah, no, exactly. I thought you'd never played this before.
Here's another weapon type. This is one thing you could do to piss off the bokoblins. Sneak up into their camp and take their weapons before they see you.
Oh, my stuff!
I don't care for spears, even though they do have good reach, but they don't do a lot of damage. Thankfully, they are fast, and also, they're really good weapons for throwing.
Oh man, spears may not do a lot of damage all at once, but you can keep an enemy off balance for days with them.
That's another thing enemies will do. If there's a campfire nearby and they have wooden weapons, they will set it on fire to do more damage against you. And our first shield is a pot lid.
Dragon Quest did it first.
That's a good camera angle. Damn it.
I can't believe that you woke up alone, naked, in a cave, submerged up to your nipples in blue Powerade with one or both of your kidneys missing, and now you're running around with kitchen utensils. And spicy peppers! Thank you, spicy boy.
This is one of the buff items, actually. If you just cook it in fire, it'll increase the amount of hearts that it recovers, but it doesn't do anything else. Cooking it in a pot with other foods gives you a cold resist food. So let's do something about that. You can hold up to 5 items in your hand. You have to actually choose to hold them in your hand and then drop them in the pot.
Oh my god, I can't hold all these mushrooms.
That heals 5 hearts, way more than the individual ingredients would have healed. And it gives me a decent amount of cold resist. The thing about both food and elixirs, you cannot mix buffs. If one of the things gives you cold resist or increases your attack, you cannot mix it with anything else. Otherwise, you just get a basic food.
Or if you try and put bugs or monster parts into your food, oh, you're gonna have a bad time.
You get even less than that. One thing I really like, though, is just how expressive Link looks when he cooks. He's having a ball.
Humming a happy tune.
Vanishing mysteriously.
Crit! Crit cooking!
That was a special tune, for when you get it exactly right.
I'm down with that because the expressive animations were my absolute favorite part of Wind Waker.
He's so proud of himself.
Ha, yeah, I won't poison myself.
One thing you don't want to cook, though, is those machinery parts.
They don't taste too good, man.
But he's been out so long, he needs some iron supplements.
I'm making as much spicy food as I can, because there is a snowy area in the tutorial. And I kind of want to do something special for it. You don't need to worry about the recipes, really. There aren't many special recipes.
You have to finish the recipe log.
Thankfully, there isn't one. As far as I know. I hope there's not one. That'll do it for now.
So does Link have any kind of fullness meter, or can you just stuff him like it's Skyrim?
You can stuff him like his gut is a black hole.
Hold on, Mr. Dragon, I need to eat this entire wheel of cheese.
More like this entire stack of apples.
One of Link's ancestors was Kirby.
Might as well be. I mean, in a way, I do get things from eating them. Look, fishies! There's a couple of different ways you can fish. I could just jump into the water and catch them by hand. But by killing them first makes them easier to catch.
That is typical of most things.
It can be pretty dangerous, because you have like a swimming dash, but it takes a lot of stamina, so it's pretty easy to drown if you're going after a particularly fleet fishy.
And it's not a very good dash, honestly.
That's okay. It's better than a fish.
Okay, the audio graph and the gas meter in the lower right. Talk to me.
Okay, the audio graph, that's your noise level. That's the best way to tell if sneaking is going to be effective, is if the audio isn't very loud at all. And there are clothes that actually dampen sound no matter how quickly you're walking. If you boost to run, they'll hear you no matter what, but otherwise it dampens sound. The gas meter is actually, that's your temperature. That's your thermometer. So right now, we're just right in the middle. We're not cold, we're not hot. But that will tell you if you're in an area where you either need to put on warmer clothes, or put on cooling clothes, or eat something. Most areas of the game are just neutral.
Like San Diego in the spring.
Yep. Or Sacramento, right now. And if you haven't noticed, this first part is very much the tutorial. Let's just do everything before we continue. Because nothing else quite shows how playing the game is like than this. Including staking out an area This isn't quite Far Cry, you know, tagging enemies or anything. But with the scope, you can sort of get the lay of the land. You'll notice up in that skull, there are some lanterns. Unfortunately, that bokoblin sees me, so he's probably going to notify the guys. But if you can knock those down, which I could not, you'll actually fall and hit some explosive barrels. That's a good way to take care of those guys before they can see you. Unfortunately, there's a blue bokoblin, and he is much stronger than the red guys. And he also has much better weapons.
Well, you know what they say. Running the fuck away, the better part of valor.
Luckily, he just completely missed. And also, if you attack an enemy's shield enough, it will actually stagger them a little bit.
Poise break him.
You can't quite do anything special when you do that, but it is some open hits, at least. That's a pretty good weapon at this point in the game. And also, you notice, that bokoblin archer's arrows can actually be picked up. I believe you can pick up the first 5, maybe 10, but after that point, they disappear once they hit the ground. Damn it. And you can't pick them up once they've hit you.
Oh, figured that'd be the easiest way to do it.
I think I did that once in the original Twilight Princess Let's Play. With a fire arrow, no less. Nice. Headshot. With a better bow, a headshot is essentially an instant kill for these little guys. I am going to get rid of the motion controls, though. And also speed up the camera sensitivity. I work much better with the control sticks than with the gyroscope.
You and the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I'm trash at Splatoon.
I thought the gyroscope worked pretty well with Ocarina of Time 3D, though. I'm not so good with it in this game, though. Mostly because I have the Wii U controller just sort of in my lap, mostly. And trying to move it around, I don't have as much space around me. Boko bow, most basic of bows, they break pretty easily. And since we killed all the enemies, that chest is now open.
You mean since you invaded and then brutally burned them in their own home?
Burn, you say? And also, you notice down in the bottom left, the game autosaves very frequently. There are no multiple save games, necessarily, but there are multiple individual saves. But also, like, I believe on the Switch you can also do this, but I know in the Wii U you can make just a separate account if you want multiple saves, which is what I did for this. But anyway, we've had our fun. Let's more or less continue where we want to go. I do want to get a look outside of the Great Plateau there. The Great Plateau is our tutorial section. Until we've completed it, we cannot leave. And the game conveys that pretty well. There's this big coat of fog just hanging around it. I do like that most of the area is visible here. Though interestingly, as we're going to see later, it feels like this is just a very basic map, but the rest of the game isn't actually loaded in, and I think someone actually tested that and confirmed it. So I think it's also partially because when you download the game, I think this is the first part that gets downloaded, and then there's a patch for the rest of the game. So you can play this while the rest of the game is downloading.
I mean, the Wii U is only so powerful, you know. Just getting this out of it is kind of a modern miracle.
There is some frame rate problems and that weird graphical glitch we saw earlier, but it's a solid game as far as technicals.
Nintendo's pretty pro at milking their own hardware, at least.
Sneak strike. And it was almost silent, too.
Oh, my skull.
Oh, over here now.
Oh, it's funny when they ragdoll.
Ragdolls are the best.
You can also ragdoll when you die.
With stronger enemies, you can get them into a nice little ragdoll chain where they get up, shake their head, look around, then you immediately knock them down again.
Right there I did a sneak jump. It's not a big jump, but when you do it, you also don't make a sound. So, if it feels like the sneak is taking a little while, you can still dash forward. Slightly better sword. Slightly better shield. But this is where that voice wanted us to come. I want to get a look at it, though. Because once we're done here, it will not look like this anymore, and I didn't give it a good look first time I played. It appears to be a structure stuck in the side of a rock. How did that not kill me? Huh, smells funny.
But out of the taste.
Oh no, I put my Super Mario Galaxy Tab S2 in there.
Excuse me. So speaking of open world things, here are towers.
Thanks, Ubisoft.
It's okay, these towers are good though. Because they're each a varied challenge and there's not too many of them.
There's just enough. And also, I love this.
Really? Because it skeeves me out, man.
Well, I like, it's the Sheikah eye, and the data is the tear.
It really just looks like it's pooping data into your tablet.
I mean, it doesn't make any physical sense, but I like the visual.
I wonder if it's in Fahrenheit in other regions.
I don't know.
Well, Canada's on Celsius, and the game's still in Fahrenheit. But I guess we're basically America Junior. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Try to remember. You have been asleep for the past 100 years. The beast. When the beast regains its true power, this world will face its end. Now then, you must hurry, Link. Before it's too late.
Well, that looks like a fun place.
Yeah.
You must hurry, Link. Lol, no.
And we got a glowy thing. That seems like we got a bunch of glowy things.
Glowies. I love glowies.
So we will go there next time.
To the castle?
No.
Yeah, you're just gonna finish this. I mean, we got 4 episodes. I figure that's the whole LP, right?
It's open world, right? You could just go right there.
Well, like I mentioned, we're still in the tutorial section.
Yeah, so there's
yeah.
2 more videos of tutorial, and then the Last video is the ending.
Well, no, there's one video of tutorial, one video of running to the castle, just running, nothing but running, and then probably a 2-hour boss fight.
Will the running be set to Flock of Seagulls?
Sure, man.
Alright, I'm in.
For the record, no.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, these first 4 parts are of the Great Plateau. I did them ahead of time. Actually, I did the whole game ahead of time, but I edited these for now. There's a decent amount of things to do, and it's a decent length. I imagine long enough for the rest of the game to download, which I guess is the idea. But that is true. Once we get out of the Great Plateau, you can head directly to Hyrule Castle. And you can take on that big ball of purple pig juice.
Oh, come on. You're not fooling anyone.
No, it's Ganon. We know it's Ganon.
It's Vadi. Wait, what?
Oh, you guys said the VG word. GV? I'm not sure who gets top billing in those timelines.
It's just Moldorm. He got really pissed off.
Oh, it's just a lot of Moldorm. He was really mad. You know, he thought that the Tower of Hera would be like his last stand. He thought he would do it. Like, nobody's gonna stand up here with my big bouncy body. Then some kid comes along and chops his tail off.
It's also the only non-N Zelda boss's name I can remember.
Oh, really? What about Aghanim? Or Argus? Or the Helmasaur King?
Nope.
Or the
nope.
Helmarock?
Nope.
Or the Lanimolas? You know,
Nope.
that's a good one. Let's see, what else? Blind the Thief?
Nope.
Basically, the only Zelda game I've ever played is Link to the Past.
I noticed.
Anyway, see you all in part 2 as we begin a process of unlocking new game mechanics, every one of which is fun. Pretty much the entirety of the Great Plateau is going to be talking about how much I enjoy playing this game.
PYF Firepot recipes.
Sexy naked Link.
Mm-mm.